Welcome to Light Thoughts and Sports Training with T. Price. I'm the host, Tyree Price, aka T. Price. Today is a special day for me. I have the privilege, the honor to have this great company with me to discuss different topics, some things as to also to give us some segue on HBCU, where they have been, where they have done, where they are now, where they're going. And also just kind of give us a chance to have our little say on top coaches out there, assistant coaches, giving honor and praise, and then also try to end off with some advice for some young coaches coming into the business. So I want to introduce, I'm gonna go from what I see on my screen, the head coach, the director of track and field cross country at North Carolina State, A&T State University, Duane Ross. We have assistant track and field coach, all-time great from Jamaica, Mr. Lennox Graham. The director of track and field cross country at Hampton University, Mr. Maurice Pierce. The director of track and field cross country from Alabama State University, Ritchie Beene. And the director of cross country track and field at Benedict College, Mr. Hyland. I thank you all for joining me today.
Pleasure.
So,
Pleasure, man.
First topic we're going to do is how did you get started in coaching and your process to where you are now? Well, let's start with Mr. Hyland from Benedict.
Okay. Well, I don't know how far you want me to go back, Tyrese. I never had the opportunity to be an assistant coach, so it was kind of hard for me to follow someone with major accomplishments. So it was kind of learning on the fly for me. I was actually a volleyball coach. I ran track in high school, but I was actually a volleyball coach first, right out of college. And then my coach retired, so I took over for track and field. So I had to learn on the fly, like I said, and the only events I knew how to coach at the time was middle distance. So of course, you know, it was a transition of learning all the opportunities to try to get all of the trainings and go all the certifications to learn sprints, the hurdles, the jumps. And I started loving the hurdles and the jumps a little bit more. I still love my middle distance, still love my long distance, but I transitioned from Voorhees College, from Barber Scotia College, where I graduated from. I got my first official job at Voorhees College as the head coach, and I was there for like 8 years, and got a couple of NAIA All-Americans. I won about 24 conference championships while I was there, and then I got to Benedict in 2005, and I've been there ever since. Had some success, still got a lot to learn. Got a chance to meet some very good people, and I learned a lot from them. And you learn from a lot of people that you deal with, especially the people that's in your circle. And I think my major thing for me was to kind of, I had to figure out my philosophy, because, you know, when you're young, you're trying to figure out what all the good coaches are doing, and you're trying to get their voice, their opinions, and learn their philosophies, and you want to get their workouts, not realizing that it's about building your philosophy and getting a little bit from everybody to make your own. And I had a chance to be around a lot of good people, and so I was able to build my own philosophy and put things in place, and that's why I'm here now.
Coach Pierce.
Well, you know, when I finished running track at Norfolk State, you know, I ran at Norfolk State in the early 90s. And right about 95 or so, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I still had one more year eligibility, and I thought about running, and I had no idea I was going to get into coaching. What happened was, you know, you can't run fast anymore, so you make it. No, but then what happened was I had a good career at Norfolk State as an athlete, and we had some good teams in the early 90s. Then we made this big transition, and we brought in all these world-class sprinters. And so I figured, you know what? If I can't make it to the next level in track and field, I'm gonna coach somebody to the next level. And so I was fortunate enough to run for 1 year under Steve Ritchie, and a world-class athlete himself. And at the same time, on the women's coaching staff at Norfolk State, Laverne Sweat, who was on some of the USA national teams, and needed some help. So they gave me an opportunity to be a student assistant my last semester to work with both the men and women's track team. And then it just took off after that. Laverne Sweat hired me as an assistant. She tried to get me to go to grad school, but I didn't want to go. And then it just took off from there. I stayed at Norfolk, went to Maryland for a year, and I've been in Hampton since '99. So I was blessed to be in the right situation as soon as I finished running track.
Coach Graham.
Well, for me, I went to Alabama State University. That's my alma mater. And I ran track there, sprinter, hurdler, both long and short hurdles. And when I went to Alabama State University, the coach there, Coach Crump, was not really an expert in coaching hurdles. So he would write the workouts, but on hurdle days, I would be the person who would kind of tutor or teach the hurdles to my teammates. And I kind of liked that. I did information technology as my major, and I went back home to Jamaica after I graduated and spent about 14 years volunteering as a high school coach. So I volunteered in my old high school for 14 years. I became the head coach there as a volunteer and just kind of had fun mentoring kids and trying to get them out of there. Some people from less than fortunate surroundings, they wanted to just to encourage them to have an opportunity to get tertiary education. And that's how I really started coaching seriously. Of course, while doing that, I got all my certifications that I needed to get to actually say, I know what I'm doing, you know, and understand more about the game. Of course, you learn a lot more from experience than you do from just certifications, but, you know, I had to get that. So after the 14 years, 6 years in succession, we had won the high school boys championships in Jamaica. I went to the Penn Relays and saw this VP finance of Johnson C. Smith. And he was talking to me about possibility of coaching in the NCAAs. So, of course, I kind of agreed. I wanted to kind of take a chance at it, but they hired, I think it was a young lady. I can't remember who, but they made a hire. And in 1 year, it didn't work. They called me again. I went for an interview, and rest is history. Spent 10 years coaching at Johnson C. Smith University, my first paid coaching job since I've been a volunteer for 14 years. And after 10 years of coaching there, a couple conference championships on the girls' side, I could not beat George Williams on the boys' side, no matter how hard I tried. Sir George had the better of me every year. And so after 10 years, I got the opportunity to be an assistant coach at Clemson University, which I've been doing for the last 3 years. And it's been fun. And it's just so funny on this call, we have Coach Beene of Alabama State University. And then we have my man, Hall of Famer from Clemson University, sitting over there acting like he's humble.
Thanks for the plug.
But it's kind of funny, but it's interesting to be sitting with these guys, man.
All right, Coach Beene.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My story into coaching is a path that's very unusual. I was a pretty good track and field athlete in high school, distant runner. And my senior year in high school, my brother got into a terrible accident. And my dreams of running in college actually got put on hold. I stayed closer to home, went to a JUCO, and gave up running for 3 years. The first 2 years, I pretty much went to school. I was a really, really good musician, and I just used the money from there to get myself through school. And then I eventually transferred to Alcorn State University under Coach Shields, Alicia Gasson. I think she's maybe at Dale State now. She used to be at Coppin for a while. And so she was my college coach, and I got back into running when I thought running and being an athlete was done for, because I place a lot of value on family. And I wanted to stay closer to home to help my mom and my dad, because my brother was on his way back to Jackson State University, the car accident left him in a coma. And he just passed away last year, right before the Indoor Nationals.
Wow.
So when we arrived at Indoor National, I was just leaving from home from burying my brother that had the accident in 1992. So long story short, Coach Shields was my college coach, and I was interning for elementary education. And probably after I started my internship, I was like, I do not want to be a school teacher. And I talked to Coach Shields, I was like, I think I want to coach. And so she pretty much taught me everything. Yes, I was on the team, but I was her mini-me, her baby coach. And I followed her around. She taught me about recruiting. She gave me this book that was super thick with all the events in it with track and field. She taught me the formula to building a championship program, how to build your field events, how to recruit coaches, how to recruit athletes. Like, I would sit there in the office and listen to her on the phone. Like, she just broke everything down to me. She basically started teaching me some of the business. And she was like, the only way you're going to be successful, you can't stay here with me. You need to go somewhere and start anew. And she put me into contact with Coach Crump, which was Lennox coach at the time. I came in under him as a GA. And I remember I was making, after tax, I was bringing home $980 a month. And I was living off of that. But I worked like I was making $100,000. I mean, it wasn't anything that he would ask me to do that I wouldn't do. I mean, I respected my boss. I respected what he stood for, and I was humble. Made a lot of mistakes, but I came in as a GA. Once I graduated, he kept me on as a full-time assistant. And one day on the road, I'll never forget, I was in Albany, Georgia at the state meet, and I was telling him about some kids I was interested in signing. He was like, all right, coach, you can sign whoever you want to. Now it's yours. I was like, what do you mean? He said, I just submitted my retirement. So I had to pull over on the side of the road, catch my breath. It was like, are you serious? And that is what transformed me into where I am today. Like I said, my role is a little bit different, but I think God had a reason and a purpose for everything that happened.
Right.
Absolutely.
Coach Ross.
Yeah. Hey, great story, Beene. Great story.
Awesome story.
Yeah. My background, believe it or not, I had no interest, absolutely no interest in coaching. When I left Clemson, I was running professionally after I graduated from there. I had every intention on making my first Olympic team, whenever that might have been, and then leaving the sport after that. So my goal, I thought I had everything lined up and planned. I'm a schedule type guy. So my goal was run, make the Olympic team, make as much money as you can, enjoy yourself while you're running. And then after that, going into the world of finance. So I have a finance background. I was licensed, certified financial advisor. I did that while I was competing. So my goal was to be a real estate developer and to be an investment advisor. Right? I mean, there was no deterring me from that. So after I retired from competing, 2004 Olympics came and went. After that, I retired. I was investing full time for a while and enjoyed it. And got to a point where I just missed track. So I was like, well, let me do something, to keep me involved in track. So I took a job at this Division III school in Fayetteville called Methodist University. So I started there. I was there for 5 years. And when I took that job, there was 5 kids on the team. I mean, it was not, it was a situation where the athletic director said, hey, you know what, build us a program. It's, it is what it is. There's no scholarships, but you're going to enjoy doing what you're doing. So, and I did. I enjoyed it, did it for 5 years, fell in love with it. And after 5 years, the opportunity presented itself at A&T, and here we are.
Wow.
Good stuff.
I think I have a similar experience to that. Once I finished up college, I said, I'm going to try this, I guess, for me, semi-pro league of track and field. And then I was out there at Life University. I was going to chiropractic school at Life University, and coach from Marietta High School said, hey, can you help me out with my kids? Started helping them out. They did well. They won a state championship. And then a guy named Chad Black decided I want to do a track club with professional athletes. Started in the Black Track Club. We had Milt Campbell and all those guys in there. Started working with them, and I decided to go. Let me try this college thing. Went down to AU Center. Went to Morehouse. Knocked on their door. Nobody was there. Clark, knocked on their door. Nobody was there. Couldn't get on Spelman's campus. So I went to Morris Brown. One of the assistant football coaches was the head track coach, and I was like, hey, I would like to come out just try to help out. So I volunteered that year. The very next year, they made me assistant, very low salary. And I was still working at Dave & Buster's at the time, so I let go of the chiropractic. I said I'd come back to it later. Started volunteer, then next year got assistant, then moved up assistant head. Then that last year of the school became the head coach. Then they lost accreditation. I got the job at Fort Valley State. Started off at for the men's program. I probably making what you were making, Beene, at the time. And we had some success next year.
Sound like everybody was broke except Duane Ross.
Oh,
no, I didn't say I was making money.
Then the opportunity came at my alma mater at South Carolina State to come the head coach. Went there. That almost tripled my salary. And then did 6 years there. Did 4 years at Fort Valley, 6 years at South Carolina State. Then Coop and I, he was my assistant coach at first, and then he came down to Bethune-Cookman, became head coach. I was out of job, so I needed a job. He hired me, and we've had success. He had success before me, but we had a lot of success to get together. So that's my path. One of the unique things about this group is somehow, some way, whether we went to school and we pretty much all have coached at an HBCU. So can you tell me a little bit about about your HBCU experience and what has been gained from that experience? Start with you, Coach Pierce.
You talking about from an athlete standpoint or a coaching standpoint?
Both.
Well,
Sure.
as an athlete and a student at Norfolk State, I mean, it was great. The HBCU experience was great at the time. You're talking about from 91 to 95, where Black colleges were just off the chain, having a great time, up and down the East Coast, down South, everything, you name it. From being an athlete, fraternity stuff. And with me, Norfolk State wasn't that far. Norfolk State gained a whole lot from the HBCU experience in terms of the connections and the people I met, lifelong friends, lifelong professors. Be able to grow as a person, to discover new stuff about yourself. So that from a personal standpoint, it was a great experience. And probably was something that I needed to be in college at the time. And, and it had the right people in the right place to put me in the right direction to really groom me for whatever I was trying to be. But then as a coach, I tell everybody I was truly blessed as a coach because my last year of running track, which was an indoor season, track with some world-class athletes that I also kind of like helped recruit there. We had Ramon Clay and Tim Montgomery and all those guys. And I had an indoor season to run with those guys. Then I didn't have any more outdoor season. That's how I started the coaching thing. So I was blessed to always be around world-class athletes, whether they were on my team at Norfolk State in the early 90s, outstanding athletes, countries. So I was in that mix. And then, like I said, I ran under Steve Riddick, who was a world-class athlete. The women's coach, Laverne Sweat, was a coach. I've always been blessed in the right situation. And it seems like even though I was surrounded by and blessed to be around world-class athletes and world-class coaches, and that's how my career was able to take off so fast. So I tell everybody, I was blessed just to be where I needed to be at the right time. Somebody just told me to sit down and stay right here. And so I took advantage of it and didn't realize at the time, because we was having so much success, and then I was having so much success on a personal level, because I had professional athletes also making Olympic teams, that I really didn't dwell on me that I was just this black college coach. For the simple fact, because I'm a product of a black college, but I had some and more success than professional at various institutions. So my experience, it was great, and it was moving fast, and it was on the fast track right away. And so I just been blessed to be in this environment for so long and had so much success in it. And probably had not I been at Norfolk State, it wouldn't have happened this way. So I was blessed to be at the right place.
Coach Ross.
Yeah, so my experience, as Lennox mentioned earlier, I graduated from Clemson, so I didn't have that experience as an athlete. But the last 8 years, I will honestly say the HBCU experience has been humbling. You know, and I show a lot of love and a lot of respect to our alumni and the alumni of other HBCUs. Like I said, it's just been humbling. My first year at A&T, man, just, you know, getting there and seeing how everyone was just so helpful. Everyone was just so tight knit, and just the culture. I mean, because it was a culture change for me. Listen, I remember we have a thing called Aggie Fest.
Yeah,
So I remember
I've been there for that.
Yeah, so I remember coming out to that my first year here at A&T. And I came out to that, man, and I saw how we just partied and had a good time. And I'm sitting there looking at the student athletes, and not just the student athletes, the staff and everybody, locals in the neighborhood, just, you know, having a good time, enjoying themselves, man. And that right there was my welcome to the HBCU culture. So listen, I've enjoyed it, man. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
Coach Hyland.
Well, I attended a small school in North Carolina, Concord, right outside of Charlotte, Barbara Scotia College. And I got there because my uncle, who was the Olympic coach for the Virgin Islands at the time, his name was Cipriani Phillips. Him and George Williams were real close. So apparently they worked out something where I was going to end up at St. Aug's. And for some reason, something went down. George ran out of money, but I came to find out later there was a young man by the name of Antonio Pettigrew that replaced me. So I was a little upset because I didn't know who he was until I ran against him. And so, you know, Barbara Scotia is right down the road from Raleigh. So we saw him at a lot of meets, and especially when they had their little meets at St. Aug's. And I'll never forget, I wanted to beat this same guy they talking about, this Antonio Pettigrew guy, until I saw his running style. I said, oh, I definitely will beat him. Until the last 200 meters. You know how he used to run. If you know Antonio Pettigrew, you know how he ran. He would jog the first 200, run the last 200, just like a high school kid. And I was in the lane right behind him, lane 3. He was in lane 4. And I rolled up on him, got to the 200-meter mark. I started putting the gears on, and he said, okay, I'll talk to you later. And he left. So all I saw, he was a capper. So he had on these red tights, because, you know, he was just a warm-up race for him, I guess. And I saw this capper sign has disappeared. It got smaller and smaller. And so the experience for me was amazing because when I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, but I went to school in Barbados. But my mom had to move to the Virgin Islands, so I was confused. I didn't know where I was from. So we left the Virgin Islands, a small island, and come to the United States. And, you know, you think because you're from the Caribbean, you can outrun a lot of people and you're much better and talent-wise. And when you see these guys start to turn it on you and change your life, you get, like you said, Ross, you get humbled. And so my college undergrad experience was very, very good. I learned a lot. What I liked about our team and the reason, and that's how I kind of mold my teams here, is the diversity. We had people from everywhere, and it helped our culture with the student athletes to learn more about themselves. When I got to coach my first team, I was still clueless about how I was going to put together the system. And when I got to Voorhees College in 96, that's when I started realizing how to build or how to link a team together to make it more diverse. And the college experience there, like you said, Ross, was amazing because, you know, my first homecoming there was unreal. And it was because I'd never been a part of a football homecoming until I got to Benedict. So when I got to Benedict, it was another change because of a football homecoming based on, you know, other than a basketball homecoming, totally different. So when you have tailgating and all that stuff going on, it was amazing for me. So the college experience was amazing for me, especially as a coach.
Coach Graham.
As I said before, as a student, I went to Alabama State University. I was fresh out of high school in Jamaica, and it was kind of a culture shock for me. Yeah, I had come to the States before, but just visiting the Penn Relays, so I really wasn't aware of what the culture was like. And then got there, and that was early '80s, and just to hear people talking about racial stuff and the cultural stuff, or the Black cultural stuff. It was kind of a shocker because in Jamaica, though we're majority Black, once we got out of slavery, we were the majority. So the racial oppression just didn't happen. So that was my first kind of experience of that. And I learned a lot. There was a lot of pride in the HBCU. There was a lot of family love. I guess you could say it could be a mix of the Southern hospitality and just the family love of your own people. And that part was the good part. The challenging part was I suddenly realized that I was Black because it didn't occur to me before. It didn't matter. I mean, I was just a Jamaican. And I suddenly realized I was Black, and that was held against me. I also realized that even within the HBCU, it was threatening to some of my colleagues because it was like, you're coming over here to get our jobs. So honestly, I kind of felt unwanted because I was Black, and unwanted because I was a foreigner. So I was honestly in a hurry to go back home. So I got out of there in 3.5 years. Not to say that Montgomery wasn't cool, because I enjoyed myself at Alabama State University, but those are the things that were a little bit negative for me. And so I got out of there in 3.5 years, and I went back home. And I was happy to be back in Jamaica. Coming back in 2007 as a coach, back into the HBCU, it was easy to reconnect because the culture was similar to HBCUs or HBCUs. It was now not so much as I didn't feel threatened to be there. I felt like I had a lot to share and a lot to learn, and definitely that I did. It was my first head coaching job. It was my first NCAA job. It was my first paid coaching job. So like Frank said earlier, I was learning on the fly. The great thing that happened for me was I recruited 2 Jamaicans that I coached in high school. One was Leaford Green, who I had known for 2 years. He came to me as a low 48 quarter miler. In a year and a half, he was running 45.8. And he was highly recruited by the NCAA Division I universities, but he found out I got a job in Division II. And he's like, Coach, if you took me from 48 to 45 in a year and a half, I'm not going anywhere else. So he came with me. I had a young sprint hurdler, Charmaine Williams, who came also with me. And within the first semester, it was a struggle at Johnson C. Smith just to do indoor track. They didn't want to do indoor track. My AD wanted to do outdoor track. Yeah. Why complicate it with indoor track? And I was like, if we can't make 10 people for 4 meets to indoors, we're definitely not going to make it for outdoors. So let's go indoors first. Fortunately, we went indoors, man, because we had 2 national champions. Charmaine broke the NCAA championship record in the 60 hurdles, and Leaford was the 400-meter champ. And so that was the greatest start that you could ever have to a coaching career. So I really owe a lot of my success at the NCAA level to those guys who trusted me when they were recruited by many people. I mean, Charmaine in her freshman year got the World Junior silver medal in the 100-meter hurdles. So she could have gone anywhere. And for them to just stick with Coach Graham, the high school coach, it was awesome. The other thing at the HBCU, man, as a coach, I did everything, but I appreciated it because I learned every aspect of NCAA track and field. I mean, I didn't know what a director of ops was until I went to Clemson, because that was me. I was also the stadium manager, so I was managing like 6 sports and 7 budgets. And I just appreciated the amount of information and knowledge that I gained from just working 10 years at a HBCU. I was in charge of game day operations when it was football time, in the fall. In the spring, when I'm not on campus, because I'm at meets, I was still in charge of the rental of the stadium and the people who would use the stadium. I was still responsible for them. So it was like everything. Fundraising just to make ends meet. That was my everyday reality, man. And I thank this gentleman, Aubrey Hilliard. He was in Charlotte. He ran, I think it was Horizon Energy. Without him, man, I would have fallen on my face so many times, because he would just be encouraging. Just this guy who I saw, and he was a white guy, and he just saw me down there. He used to come down there to high jump, and he used our mats, and he said, "Oh, can I help you, Coach Graham?" And that was it. That's all I needed to hear, man. And then after that, we had a great relationship, great friendship, and he would help me in so many different areas. It's impossible to list all of them right now, but the HBCU experience was great for me in Charlotte. I love Charlotte. And of course, 10 years of doing that, you couldn't do that if you didn't love it.
Coach Beene.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, guys. My HBCU experience, and I think everybody can agree, it has taken me to the highest of the high and to some of the lowest of the lows. I mean, that's just the bona fide, uncut truth to it. It'll have you feeling so awesome one day, man, and then some days you leave like, man, what in the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
That's just that. But at the end of the day, I am who I am because of the HBCU experience. I had an opportunity to go to a PWI. It was a JUCO, but it was a PWI JUCO, and I was in Mississippi, and I was constantly reminded of my place. I mean, the school was amazing. I mean, I had carpet, in my room, on the floor in my room, had a bathtub, had a shower, had a balcony in my dorm. I mean, then I leave and transfer to Alcorn, and everybody on the floor used the same shower, open. And I was like, man, what have I just walked into? But I learned how, the young people say, I learned how to eat.
Right.
I learned how the importance of getting up early. I learned the importance of being a Black man. I learned the importance of the quality of education and taking it and using it for what it's worth. And that's why, even as a coach, I take a lot of pride in what I do academically and athletically with my young people, because there is a stigma. Because I was told if I went to a HBCU, nobody would respect me, nor would I get a good job. And so that's why everything that I do, every aspect of the program at this HBCU, I take serious. One of my main philosophies is I teach first, coach second. I want you to learn something about everything that we're doing and that you're going to experience and go through. And we all know about budgets. We all know about the all this special circumstances you have to go through just to make things work. But at the end of the day, I like what Ross said, all of us have put some type of investment in something. Yeah. We've all learned how to be investors.
Yes, sir.
We learn how to take what we have and invest it and take $1 and make 100 and 100 and make 1,000. And so you think about, all of us have so many keys and things that we've learned through the HBCU experience, because if you can survive here, you can survive anywhere, because you're going to be fully equipped. You're going to be connected socioeconomically. You're going to be connected spiritually. You're going to be connected as a whole person, because everybody had a coach through that HBCU experience. Even if you didn't go, there was an HBCU coach that took you under the wing and said, "Come here, son, let me talk to you." Mm-hmm. And that's a price that money can't pay.
I think I echo those same sentiments from South Carolina State, learning the ins and outs as an athlete. First, it was a lot of people, a lot of great friends made, acquaintances, associates, and then going through all of the HBCU schools I've been at. I have nothing but love for everybody, and I think I concur with you. Nothing more to say than what y'all said already about the experience itself. I think that's throughout all HBCUs is the same, mostly, you know. So, and I'm looking at this screen. I'm seeing all of these coaches, and the thing about this is a unique thing about it is it's championship coaches here. You know, everyone here has won a championship. And have a whole bunch of All-Americans. So I wanted to also bring that up. You know, a lot of people may second guess what people have done, whether it's conference championships, going to nationals, which you've done. I want to really pay homage to that, to each and every one of you on that note. So, Coach Graham, I think you're the person kind of in this boat right here. The move from HBCU to PWI, Power 5 or any other, you know, I think when I look back now, I can fact check me on this, but when I look back, I saw there's been a lot of people who graduated from HBCUs and went straight into PWIs. I've seen a few of those coaches, but there's only 2 people that I know or seen and through my research that graduated from HBCU and first started coaching collegiately at a HBCU to go on to a PWI and coach. And I think the first was Brian Johnson from Southern in 2015 when he went to UGA. And then in 2017, Coach Graham, when you left John C. Smith and went to Clemson. How difficult was the process of getting there? And then also, why are there so little that have been proven things are getting those opportunities?
You know what, Ben? I'm really not a great historian, so you just gave me some information that I absolutely didn't know, that I was the second person to do that. It's not one of the things that I look at. Moving from the HBCU to the PWI, actually, I was moving from being a head coach to being an assistant coach. I thought that would be challenging, but it wasn't at all. I have a head coach that I respect and that he respects me. Like I said before in a previous conversation, previous topic we were discussing, I learned what a director of ops was. I took so much for granted. I thought what I was doing at Johnson C. Smith was the norm. I had no other experience in coaching, so I just did it with all my heart. I had a few conversations with Coach Hyland trying to figure out how do you make ends meet? What do you do? And he was very helpful on that, giving me some ideas, man. And it was just juggling. We just kept making things happen. One of the things that was very challenging for me is I think in 10 years, I had a pretty good success at Johnson C. Smith. We put the program back on the map, but it felt like when we won, we got penalized. We lost money in the budget. And maybe it's not because we won, maybe it's just a sign of the times and the economic situations, but that's how it felt. And as you got less money, you tried harder, you worked longer hours, and you kept producing results. And so it was like you almost justified the reduction in your budget. And that was hard to deal with, but I don't like kind of losing, or I never give up in anything that I do. It doesn't matter how many times you beat me. I'm not going to fuss about it. I'm going to go do some more work, put it all on my shoulders and come back and try again. But at one point it got so bad, man. I had a couple of conversations with Coach Hyland about what you guys do, you know, and just sharing, and the friendship that you make as a result of that is priceless. Moving to the PWIs, man, it was like my first reaction was, is this all? I mean, in terms of responsibility, we hosted a meet at Johnson C. Smith University Invitational, and I did everything at that meet. I mean, I was even the announcer at that meet. I was a coach, I was the announcer, I was the person interacting with the meet management. Anything you think of, I did. Even the people collecting the money, I was the person who was their first line of connection everywhere I was. It was exhausting. I remember my AD tried to get me to host a second meet because the JCSU invitation was growing. And it's not like I think we couldn't handle it, but I just couldn't physically handle it anymore. Then fast forward to my first indoor meet at Clemson University, and I'm down there. I'm in charge of long sprints and hurdles, and we're getting ready. We're setting up. Teams are going to come in. We're going to host them. And I'm like, what's my responsibility? And I was looking for things to do because we have equipment managers, we have staff who come in and that's what they do, set up, tear down. And it was like, compared to what I did at the HBCU, it was like nothing. It was like almost easy street on that way. Obviously, I don't have to think about budget issues because, again, I'm not a head coach. So I'm not the person who does the budgeting, but I could see from even where I am that it's much easier to handle. Also, one of the biggest things that hit me, and I speak to my student athletes about it, I say, you guys are sometimes act a little bit too entitled. And I share with them some of the stuff we did at HBCU. I mean, equipment, Clemson has a lot of equipment. And the student athletes get a lot of equipment. It's just part of being a Power 5 school, I think. At Johnson C. Smith, it was a struggle. If you want to have extra, you go fundraise. There was just not, the budget differences is just night and day, man. And so there's a lot of stuff to learn. I was my own strength and conditioning coach at the HBCU. I designed every single weight program they ever did. At some point in time when it became mandatory to have certification, I went and got certification as a strength and conditioning coach because that was what I wanted to do. That was I was doing. That's all I knew to do. Now it's a matter of coordinating with a strength and conditioning coach and trying to let them know your philosophy and trying to blend in with their philosophy. So there was that adjustment to make. The relationship with my strength and conditioning coach is good. I'm not complaining about it, but it was still an adjustment to make. Why more people don't do that? It's just based on opportunity, man. Being in the right place at the right time, as Coach Pierce said. And interestingly, maybe 2 years before I actually went to Clemson, the opportunity came up and I didn't take it because I wasn't done with Johnson C. Smith University. And I had some stuff going on in my personal life, my family life, that I did not want to walk away from. And I could not walk away from as a person who puts family first. So it was interesting that 2 years afterwards, that opportunity came around again. And when it came around, myself and my wife, we prayed about it. I was actually in London and she was home and we prayed about it. And I called her back, obviously time zone difference, called her back the next day and said, how do you feel? And we shared how we each felt after praying and sleeping on it. And we were like, oh, this is it. And we just kind of moved. And interestingly, for the last 6 years, I was at Johnson C. Smith, about 6 years. Every time I went overseas, because I'm part of the Jamaican senior coaching staff, I was then. And every time I would travel to the World Championships or the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics with the Jamaican team, when I get back, people would be like, why are you still here? And my answer would always be, when God put me here, when he wants me to go, I will go until he tells me to go. And it was just like that when we prayed about it that night, man. And the next morning, it was just like that. It was like God was saying, okay, this is it. This is why I had you there all this time and you did not get another opportunity. It was time to go. The year before I left Johnson C. Smith, I applied to a couple places, quite a few. I recommended people for head coaching job who got head coaching job. I applied for a job where the person who used me as a reference got the job and they didn't respond to me. So for me, it was like, this is what God is saying right now. It's time to go and this is my opportunity. And so I just took it.
Good. I just want to chime in.
Well, I don't know if making the jump is a reality. It's something I think every coach at HBCU, whatever the sport is, has an ambition to coach at the highest collegiate level. So whatever the sport is. Problem is it's so damn hard to get there. And it has nothing to do with credentials or credibility. It's just that somebody hasn't opened the door to put you in that situation, right? Because everybody on this panel right here can put their resume on the table and it outmatches a whole lot of people. and there's no need for us to call names because I can, but they know who they, and Duane Ross said it, he got off the couch. So the problem is that, you know, it's a gift and a curse if you at HBCU sometime, because the gift is that you're transforming and you're changing lives, and you're winning an abundance and gaining recognition and just doing what you're supposed to do. You know, I don't think anybody that's here, wherever we were at before or have the fortune to be in our next chapter, we'll always be successful. If we were high school coaches, we would always be successful. If we were coaching another sport, we'd be successful, because all of us got something in us because the results show. The problem is the people not going to open up the door for you to come in the door. And if, like Coach Graham has a long historical relationship with his head coach at Clemson, but opportunity was there to open the door, but nobody else opened the door. So then what happens is, like, I started getting this label was, can y'all see me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know what happened. I started getting this label on me that said, well, Maurice been at Hampton so long and having so much success, he'll never leave. Well, hell, you never asked me to leave. So how you know I won't leave, right? So nobody ever came to me and said, Maurice, I got this opportunity, what you think about it? Because everybody here know all you gotta do is be on the coaching staff at a major school for maybe about 3 or 4 years, and then the big door open up for you. So everybody understands that. So that's just the problem. And me, as well as everybody else is here, is not gonna cry over spilled milk and just say, oh, woe is me, I can't get to the Power 5 school, and just lay down and stop being successful. So a person like me gonna keep on grinding. But also my curse was the fact that I was having so much success at a fast period of time that other HBCUs started taking my assistant coaches and making them head coaches. So I had an abundance of coaches leave me to go become head coaches. So that was great. And so that kind of like put me behind a little bit, because, you know, once you start losing a lot of assistant coaches, you start getting put behind. So I'm still trying to play catch up. And then at the same time, some of my assistant coaches were able to go be GAs or first-time coaches at some mid-major white schools. So I opened the door for a lot of people, but the big door never opened up for me. But again, it never opened. But the simple fact is that the people that have access to open the door haven't opened the door. And it's not so much the athletic directors, right? Because the athletic directors at Power 5 schools got one concern: their shoe company contract and football. Everything else relies on assistant athletic directors or the sports supervisors. They're the ones that go to the track meets, they go to the regional meet, they show up at the NCAA meet, figure out what they want to do, right? So, and I've turned down some positions. Before I became a head coach at Hampton, I was offered an assistant job at Seton Hall when Seton Hall was hot, and an assistant job at West Virginia. But at 5 o'clock that day, Hampton offered me an opportunity to be the head women's coach. So I took that opportunity, and it just kept going from there. And I've never applied for a job up until maybe about 3 years ago, and then it didn't work out. So I got pissed off and said, well, I ain't applying for no more other jobs, right? So it's a crazy situation. And like Graham said, sometimes the Lord gonna put you wherever you want to be. I believe that, no question, right? It's just a matter of how much patience you got to keep on believing that and waiting for the opportunity to come. Because the opportunity should have been came for everybody that's here, but the right people just won't open the door. And most of the right people are the same people that speak to us at conventions, and that's just how we doing. We want to sit down.
Coach B, I also think, man, that sometimes when you're really successful at, let's say, a HBCU or even at a Division II university, wherever, people automatically think because you're successful as a head coach, you could not operate as my assistant coach.
Right.
And I don't know why people think that, because if you're a head coach and you're a successful head coach, it means you've also worked with many assistant coaches.
Right.
You understand what assistant coaches do, but it's just a stigma, I think, that people would think, like I told you guys, I applied to a lot of places the year before I actually went to Clemson and didn't get a response back. Basically, I think people were just thinking, he is set in his ways. He has his own program. He's doing his own thing. He will not be able to come into my shop and do what I want him to do, which is a farce. It is not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
If you're a head coach and an effective head coach who has gone through, like Maurice just said, so many different assistant coaches who have gone on to be good in other areas, he knew what they were doing. He assigned them jobs. He had their job description. He knows everything about that. But then they might look at Coach B and says, man, he's going to come in here and try to run this place. He's going to come in here and think he's more successful than me. He's going to the Olympics. And that's not the truth. It is not. But I think that plays a big part in people from HBCUs or wherever, smaller universities who are successful.
Intimidated.
I saw Coach Beene put his two hands up and he couldn't find space for a ring. And I'm like, that's intimidating. It's not intimidating to me, but I could see where that would be intimidating. Someone saying, I wonder if he would come over here and work as my assistant coach for maybe more money than he's making at Alabama State University, but I don't think he'll be able to fit into my program. It's intimidating, man. I think that.
I want to chime in for a second. You know, both of you guys have awesome points, and you're hitting the nail on the head. I'm one of those people. I work with him, and I try to work under a purpose. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I've had the opportunity to move on. I had one of the best opportunities probably about 2 or 3 years ago. Most of the time is coming in somewhere as an assistant coach, but me as a head coach, and I don't want to call it a curse. The blessing has been that I've been successful, and it has created some financial stability for me and my family. And at the end of the day, it's got to be something that's right for my family to move at this point. I have an end game in mind. I work with intent. You know, that's why I go back to what Ross said. You know, I might have to get with you after. You know, if you still got a background in investment, because that's one of my key things that I say. Hey, I knew when I came in this game, I wasn't going to start out making a lot of money. I always prayed about, Lord, guide me however you want me to go. But at the end of the day, for me to move at this point, it's got to be right for my family, and it's got to be financially right for the move, because I have a retirement game plan. And at the end of the day, I'm saving and investing in my retirement because I understand the business outside of the track. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of us brothers in the game get confused. That's why I am on board. When I bring an assistant coach in, I want to do everything I can to prepare them to move on and to financially be prepared to move when they leave. Because at the end of the day, you have to have an end game in mind. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I feel like that at an HBCU level, and again, it can be at every level, we go into the business without a game plan. Because at the end of the day, it's business. Mm-hmm. And if we don't work it as such, we'll continue to have doors closed on us. Yes, if there's been some PWIs have made me offers, but at the end of the day, I'm man enough to sit there with that person. What is your idea of me coming in? What type of investment do you want from an athletic standpoint? What type of investment you willing to make for me to uproot my family? I've only had 2 schools that actually come with the right answer. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. A PWI HBCU, my job is to give young people an opportunity to get an education, teach them about life, and coach them on track. So with that being said, you know, when like I said, you work with intent. I'm not a out there type person. I pray about things a lot, and I ask the Lord to put me in the position and show me the people who's serious about having real conversation with me. Because we know a lot of people come up to you and just talk to you, and they will try to pick your brain for information, have no intention of giving you an opportunity. I just don't have time for it. I'm just being blunt.
Ross, you want to say something?
No, man, I'm agreeing with Beene, man.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with everyone here. This is hey, this is great, man, and we can sit here and talk like this, and you know.
Guys, I'm gonna jump off in a minute because I got an emergency meeting coming up with my athletes. I'm shutting down, canceling the season, so it should be short. But I'll jump back on with you guys in a little bit.
No problem. No problem. I know for me, I look at things that I've been a head coach. I've been assistant. I was an assistant coach. I was a head coach, and I'm back at assistant coach. And I concur with a lot of y'all. Sometimes it sees the people look at the what have you done, and when you come in here, can you adapt to being a assistant coach for other people? And then, you know, a lot of people say it's about. I kind of agree with everybody what it says about opportunity, but then it's also about, you know, relationships where you bring up people, build with people, but sometimes I've seen where you have relationships with people, but yet you're not even an option to come into their programs, even though, you know, they may say some great things about you and stuff like that, but yet they're never, if no one ever comes to you and when they have those opportunities and they don't approach you, man, they're your friends or they're your close associates. And I've been blessed to, you know, from leaving from South Carolina State that, and I had some other opportunities, they didn't work out. And, you know, Coach Cooper here, you know, he hey, come on in, man. I know what you can do. Come on, let's make some things happen. And in that time, we did some great things. We have done some great things and probably will continue. But sometimes you look at those opportunities and it's like, man, okay, well, you know, as you said before, we look at your resumes and say, man, you've accomplished this, yet no one else is calling and no one's giving me that other opportunity to showcase. So the question is, do you get stuck? You know, so, but
I think you get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other problem. And this is the question that they really want to ask you. You're coming from a historical Black college, going to a white school. The question that they really want to ask you, but they're scared to ask you, is that, do you think you can work in this environment? So that's the hidden question, but they're scared to ask you, right? And you almost got to make them want to ask you that question. So that's the only problem. They don't think. It's funny how a person can graduate from a historical Black college and get admitted to some of the best graduate programs in the world, or become working at some of the best Fortune 5 companies in the world from being a student. But as an employee, whether it be in the business office, the financial aid office, or coaching, for whatever reason, there's a stigma that says that you cannot work in this white environment. That's the other issue right there, right? And then if a head coach, say like at a Power 5 school, so now he got to take your resume to the sports supervisor or assistant AD and say, I want this guy. First thing that guy gonna say, hey man, he come from HBCU, can he work in this environment? He got the experience in this environment? And so now that head coach got to say, yeah, he can work in this environment. What do you mean can he work in this environment? He's grown man, he's educated man, he's got great leadership skills. What else he need? So that's the other hidden agenda that they won't ask, but they ask it behind the closed doors. Because I've had that question, somebody called me and asked me about one of my assistants. They asked me, could that person work in this certain environment? Kind of pissed me the hell off. You know me, you know what I said. So that's the other hidden agenda right there. And credentials. And you know, it's an intimidation factor also somewhere. Somewhere got a hidden agenda that they don't want too much power around them. So
I'll go back and say, guys, I guess I'm one of those overly optimistic people. I think a lot of things in life goes down to positioning yourself in presentation, even at various levels. I have no desire to stay in coaching all my life, but there are some other professional goals I want to do. But I also know to be able to get in, even coming from an HBCU, I have to position myself and present myself in a certain way, which meaning that I put myself in a situation where I voluntarily, at the point I may not even be getting paid to do it, but when I go, I position myself and I present myself as I belong. If I walk in second guessing myself,
yeah,
already with that intimidation that some people may think you have or they may have on you, but at the end of the day, I've seen coaches that's on this thing today, when they get to meet, I'm one of those people, I watch things, successful people, I watch successful people.
Right.
And successful people walk in as they own it. You know, it's not being cocky, it's not being overconfident, it's called being blessed and know what you know. And you walk in with your purpose, you walk in with your position, and you ready to present what it is that you have to offer. And people will notice you. The ones who are afraid of you will move themselves out the way, and the ones who want to be a part of what you're doing will reveal themselves as well. And that's a fact. I've seen that. Now, at the end of the day, like I said, you have to position yourself in place, and even if you're not wanted,
Right.
Even through our historical failures and success in life, we have to go into places where we wasn't wanted. And you position yourself and you present what you have to offer. And somebody will see you and somebody will give you that opportunity. Now, I can't tell you the path to that because every man has to walk his own walk. But I do know a lot of the things I've been blessed with in this life. I knew I had to go there and present myself and be in position to receive what is mine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. But some of it also has to be, like Maurice said, you just got to be in the right place at the right time too.
Yeah.
And have the right people who just need someone at short notice. You're right there. Can you come over? Yes, I can. And you're there. Of course, once you get in the door, you have to prove yourself. So,
yeah.
But getting in the doors is not easy. And Maurice put it really well.
Well, I
agree.
I guess that's the question I'm trying to get into. That coming from the HBCU, it's more tougher for you than it would be from a very inexperienced person from another school of getting that opportunity. So if you came up and gave your resume and everything in, you may not even get past the first round of cuts because of what's
it's relationships.
Yeah.
It's relationships. In some cases, it's relationships.
Yeah.
But I think I heard Maurice saying that, or you saying, Tyree, that sometimes people will say good things about you, but when the opportunity comes up, they don't look at you.
Yeah.
In my own situation, as a volunteer coach who was head coach at a high school, I knew Mark Elliott when he ran track in high school, but he recruited Nikisha Wilson from me. He recruited Shanikia Hall from me as two hurdlers who went to LSU. So he knew me from I was a high school coach. And of course, when I went to Johnson C. Smith, I remember sometimes my fellow coaches in Division II would call me up and say, "How did you get in the Clemson's meet?" I said, I know Coach Elliott. And that was it's relationships. I mean, you have to do something. I mean, you can't just know someone and take him and say, "Hey, come run this area of my program for me." But it has something to do with it. He knew what my ethics were.
Right.
He knew that I was a person of integrity. He knew what my coaching ability was. And he was a recruiter recruiting for me as a high school coach. Then he watched me as a head coach when he was still an assistant coach. And then he became a head coach. So it's a whole lot to do with relationships, man. And sometimes Coach Beene made a point. Sometimes we could have an opportunity, but we walk in the room and it's like we don't think we belong. For me, I remember going down to Clemson University with my Division II team, and yeah, sometimes people looked at you a little bit like you don't belong here. I remember talking to Leaford Green about that, and he went and dropped 102 in a 500 on a flat Clemson track, and that was the I think the meet record or whatever it was. It was all-comers record at that point in time. And then you feel like, okay, now you know we belong. And sometimes you just gotta be confident in what you're doing. And no matter how much you know as a coach, if you can't recruit, your history. And so I won't sit here and act like I'm the best coach in the world without getting quality recruits. I couldn't be where I am right now. But it's about getting the opportunity, man. And it's harder for people who are in the HBCU situation. It's harder for people who are in a Division II or III situation. And but I thank God I got an opportunity, and I'm grabbing it with both hands and trying to move. If I ever move to be a head coach at some point in time. It's not something I'm chasing, but if I do that, I will try my best not to be that person who believes because someone operated well in a smaller environment, they can't operate well in a bigger environment or with more money. If you're blessed, if you do good with a little, then I'm sure you could do good with a lot. So, that's my take on it.
Hey, Tyree, if I could add my 2 cents in on that real quick. Interesting points from everyone, right? But let me tell you what my thought process was, what my philosophy was when I came here to A&T, right? When I got here to A&T, I heard everything that you guys said. I heard that you can't win in an HBCU. I was told by one of our own alumnus, right, that I was too ambitious when I told them I wanted to win conference, wanted to win nationals. One of my own alumnus, you're too ambitious, right? So I've heard it all, right? You can't kick in the door, you can't get your foot in the door, it's about relationships, all of that stuff, and there's some truth to all of that, right? But let me say this, Mo P, when I got into the conference, I thought he was on, well, not thought, he was, and probably and still is, right? And you probably don't know this, Mo P, we never talked about this, but when I came to the conference, right, Hampton dominated the conference, right? Mo P had Olympians, right? Professional athletes, national champion, right? So here we are, right? So we can sit here and my thought was this. I can sit here and believe what everybody's telling me. You can't win in an HBCU. If you're there too long, you're going to be stuck there, right? I heard all of it. Or we can just change the game, right?
Yeah.
If they're saying we can't get in the door, then you know what? Let's create another door, right? And I got that. Believe it or not, I got that from Mo P. When I came into the conference, I saw what he was doing. I said, okay, this wasn't my idea. We've had a lot of success here at A&T, right? But I wasn't the first to do that, right? Mo P wasn't the first to do it. We have, some other HBCUs that came before us that were on the right path. So when I came in, I said, okay, that's the path he's on. That's the path I'm gonna be on, right? Beat him where it counts. Beat everybody where it counts, right? I mean, yes, we can say, woe is me, they holding all the keys or whatnot. But you know what? At the end, hey, let's change the game on and create another door. So that's one of the driving points with my program. And I speak to that constantly with my program. You know what? We don't have to follow the same guidelines, right? We don't have to follow the same rules. Let's win, right? Winning takes care of a lot of different things.
Oh yeah.
So if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, that means as us as coaches, we got to be the complete package, right? If we got to work harder, then we got to work harder, right? If we got to train, if we got to study better, right? Train smarter, train harder. And that's just what we have to do, right? So that's my 2 cents. Mo P, I wanted to let you know that, right? Because hey, when I came into the conference, the man was doing it. Didn't matter, and I don't even recall when I came into the conference 8 years ago that was when did this Power 5 thing start?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was, exactly. When I came in, I just said, hey, this man is doing it, right? Yeah. So let me get on the train and let me do it and not get left behind, right? Well, I think what we need to do, man, is keep hitting it from that angle, right? Keep trying to be the best there is, regardless if it's an HBCU, Division I, Division II, Power 5. I've said it plenty of times. That Power 5, right? And I know, Lennox, you at my alma mater, but I have said this to the press. I'm like, hey, man, there's no monopoly on running fast. That Power 5 title, that is for football, right? When you step on that track, hey, everybody can get it, right?
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on it. Yes, we have to deal with all the other factors and whatnot that we can't control, the relationships, the budgets, the resources. We can't control that. But the things we can't control, we need to take hold of, man, and just keep making it better. So that's my 2 cents. I feel everybody's frustrations with that, but I wanted to let you know that, Mo P, that ironically, even though you are one of our competitors and whatnot, that you were one of the driving points, man, that helped me to get that program to where it is.
Appreciate you, brother.
I understand that very well, man, and I can relate to that. I remember coming into the CIAA and seeing George Williams, And I told George Williams, you're my mentor, whether you know it or not, whether you want to be or not, you're my mentor, man. Because I looked over there and I saw something that was successful. And I wondered, how did he do it? And how does he continue doing it? How does he stay motivated? What is this? I mean, most people who are doing very well for a little while get complacent. And so I learned a lot from George Williams, just talking to him, being able to call him on the phone, being able to just sit and listen to him talk. And he would say, if you're not in the huddle, you don't know the play, Coach Graham. You don't know the play. And I try to get in the huddle. And like I said earlier, I tried to beat him on the men's side because I know that's his pride and joy. That was impossible to do. I tried for 10 years, beat him a couple of times, about 4 or 5 times on the women's side, and was happy doing it. And he respected that. He knew that when I came, I wanted to learn from him, but I also wanted to win. And people who are true winners, man, they're not scared of you trying to beat them. Mm-hmm. They know that
that's right.
Like excellence, nobody has a monopoly on excellence.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I remember
that word mentor is kind of strong.
I remember seeing George Williams in Daegu, South Korea, man. I was at the World Championships in 2011, and he just walked up to me and hugged me, man, and said, Coach Graham, what did I tell you, man? You're going to be all right. You know how to take care of your kids. That's it. No matter what you try to do, as long as you take care of your kids, man, that's what's most important. And he was always he was supportive like that. You know, we had our battles, but he was most supportive of me. And I'm hearing Duane talk about Maurice right now, and I feel that's how I felt about George Williams when I came in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, since we go on this thing, let's go to the next topic. I've seen a lot of other people give their Mount Rushmore of coaches, so I decided to break this up a little bit. So who are your, let's go top 4 collegiate head coaches. And we can go past and present.
I'll go ahead and start first. I did my homework. I don't know about it yet. I got some paperwork. Let's have topics. So, top 4 head coaches, and I have a very short list. But I'm gonna explain to you why I have my top 4, and I don't have them in order because I think everybody have their own specialty and their own reason. But no one guy that I had on here was Duane. And let me tell you why I had Ross as,
I appreciate that, man.
as one of the top 4, because I actually interviewed for that job too. So I was mad at you at first. But no, on a serious note, I saw how the first year or 2 you struggled because you didn't have any help. And I think that was one of the main things. You know, we as, you know, on this level, like Coach Graham said, we talk so much. I had to be operations, trainer, chiropractor, you name it, father, dad, you know, whatever you want to call it. I had to do everything. And it's very tough coaching 5 or 6 events and doing it right. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but he's not doing it right. And I watched how you had to build it. You know, you told them, look, I can't beat Bethune-Cookman. I can't beat these guys unless I get what they had. Bethune-Cookman had 3 guys that had head coaching experience.
Yep.
And you went out and you said, look, if y'all want me to win, this is what I need. And you demanded it. And you were able to hire all these coaches to put you in a position that you do now. Now you could focus on what you really do, your craft. And 3 or 4 years later, it started to show. Everything started to blossom, you know? And so you built it from ground up because everybody thought that you can't do what Space did. Ain't no such thing. Nobody gonna do what Space did. Mm-hmm. And you had to fight with that at first. And your resources were very low because you don't know it. I had a young man there who ran for me, one of my first athletes, Joseph Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Remember that name? He was in admissions. He was associate director of admissions. Okay,
I do remember that. Yeah.
And Joe and I talked almost every day. I said, Joe, what Duane? Go record some of his workouts for me. I don't know what he's doing over there, but he pretty much told me the struggle that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And how you had to build it, and that's how I kind of figured some things out because I researched a lot of coaches, just like I researched Maurice, just like I researched Graham, you know, and so that's why I put you at number 1 there.
Appreciate that, man.
Uh-oh, we lost him. See, Ross, got him on pause now.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want him to say any more after that. Worked it on my end.
Also, Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we've got Ross out of you so far.
Okay. Yeah, so Petros at UGA, very good coach, multi-coach. He realized when they gave him that position, he realized how to build that program up to be a national ranking team and put UGA on the map.
Uh-oh, bad service over there.
I think he froze.
Yeah.
Yeah, while he's frozen, I am not the historian. I can't do it.
Of course.
You froze, Frank.
Frank, you froze.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, the next person is George Williams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course, you know he's the guru, and I think because of his built programs, he own style, and that's what I liked about George Williams.
So you say George, Petros, Ross.
Yep, those are my four head coaches. I don't know if you want to go on to the assistants. You're gonna wait on that.
That's three. I didn't get the fourth. Who's the fourth one?
Duane. And Poppy Victor. Yeah, he just knew how to recruit the right athletes. You know, he didn't have a whole lot of science behind his workouts, but he knew that just like Graham said, in order for you to look good, you have to have some decent athletes to work with, and the ones that's willing to buy into your program. And he just knew how to find the right ones to buy into his program.
Okay. Coach Graham.
Yeah, I'm not the historian, man, and I just when I talk about someone who's a great head coach, you have to look at the record because it's a result-oriented sport. But you also have some people who just run their program in a way that you appreciate. You know, George Williams is always going to be big up there for me, having won 39 national championships. Mike Holloway is also going to be up there with what he's been able to do in Florida for the last, I'll say, 10 years or so. If you start looking at just the record, then it's easy to start looking at A&M or so. But I like Carol Gilbert and what I see her doing recently, and how she manages the people around her, and how her team seem to rise for her, and that's why I like her as part of that list. Victor Poppy Thomas is also going to be there for the number of wins that he's had at the NCAA level. One of the most underrated or underappreciated head coaches out there. I cannot see why he's not a Hall of Famer, based on what he has done. And so some of that might be a little bit of bias in there because I've known him since he was in a high school. Actually, I knew him. He knew me before I knew my wife, and I've known my wife for almost 40 years. So he's definitely up there, but just based on his record. And so those would be, I'm sure there are others who could be mentioned up there, but those are the ones that came to mind for me. So it's George Williams, Poppy, Mike Holloway, and Carol Gilbert.
Coach Ross.
Yeah, short list also. Well, you gave us four. But George Williams, obviously, for what he's done. And my criteria, I mean, based on all of us, we've all been there where we've had to really take whatever talent we could at what point and develop it and make it better. So, I respect a lot of coaches who can do that. I understand some coaches are in a position where they're going to get the best talent, right? And that's great. They don't have to apologize for that. Hey, that's the name of the game. Right. But I really have a lot of respect for coaches who can take kids, man, and build something. So yeah, George Williams, man, doing what he did all those years, that's big for me. I also like Mo P. Right, he's on my list. I mentioned that earlier, just because of what he did. I remember when I was at Methodist, right? You probably don't remember this, Mo P. When I was at Methodist, came up that meet you had at Boo Williams.
Oh yeah.
So like I said, just being able to take athletes, man, and win, right? Yeah. Winning is winning. And then a couple others, I like Lonnie at Kentucky. Lonnie's he's a great guy. He's Lonnie, in my opinion, he gets this, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about winning, right? It's not just about track. you know, he, in my opinion, he gets it. And then the other one would be, who did I, was that 4? That might be 4 already. I don't even know, man. And look, and that's excluding present company, right? Because we've all, I mean, the head coaches over here, I mean, you know, Hyland over here, you know, Mo P Band, you know, listen, we know what it is to coach. So much so that it frustrates us sometimes, man, and you know, and we gotta say it, right? So we know what it is. So like I said, a lot of respect, man, for coaches who roll up their sleeves and get it done.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So yeah, so those are my few. You know, not a lot of, you know, big names. You know, I'm not into the, you know, the bright lights, man. I you know, hey, I'm that turn on the music, roll your sleeves up, and let's get to work type of guy.
OP.
The question was, who are your top 4 coaches, or who are your Mount Rushmore coaches?
I'm gonna say your top 4.
My top.
Current. Of all time, or just current coaches?
Current.
Past or present?
You can do past or present. Past or present.
Oh, okay. Well, that's easy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start off with George Williams, because of what George accomplished, 39 national championships and everything that he's done. I don't think you can match that. Only person ever matched it. I think he still got more than John McDonald. So you win 39 national championships. I don't care if it's in checkers. You deserve to be at the top, right? You be the cream of the top. You do whatever you want to do. Next, it's gonna throw you for a loop right here. Is I can't think of the guy's name. The head women's coach at Arkansas. What's his name?
Lance.
Who? Lance. The women's coach.
Yeah.
Right. And I say it because if you look at the body of work he has done. Remember now, before he got to Arkansas, look at all the national Division II championships he won. Right? And then he transitioned over to Arkansas and started. He didn't win a national championship for a long time, but he was chopping. He kept winning SEC championships. And he finally broke the door down and started winning national championships. So if you look at his body of work over the years, I think he's an underrated coach because he's not a one-dimensional guy. He has a fantastic program. It's not just a sprint powerhouse or distance powerhouse, jump powerhouse. His body of work speaks for itself. Then I'm gonna put how many is that? That's 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Mouse in there. I think Mouse is a great coach. A lot of people want to label him as just a sprint coach, but Mouse has done a good job of organizing and getting 800-meter people to go to the national championship. And plus, when he got on the road, he got on the road. Man started winning national championships. He won that championship before Grant Holloway got there. So his body of work, and he's a tireless worker, and he's a go-getter. Then my 4th person is current. I think people want to put a label on Duane Ross, and I'm not just saying this because Duane is on this camera. But when you start finishing top 3, top 4, top 5 at the NCAA championship, and then you start, you know, you're having kids in sprint races, you're having kids in relay races, you're having kids in the 400, you're having kids in the 400-meter hurdles. And we've all had that. I've had a lot of kids go to the NCAA championship. But when they show up at the championship and they put on performances like they own the damn meat, then that says a whole lot about preparation and that you're showing up to get something done. You just ain't happy to be at the big show. So we're looking at the body of work at the NCAA level. And everybody y'all talked about got conference championships. Victor has a lot of championships. Everybody got championships. But I look at the body of work, where a person started to where they are now, and how much success they're continuing to have, whether it's white or black, Power 5, HBCU, or whatever, and not be labeled in the box. It's just a great sprint coach.
Yeah.
I think I took my answers. Definitely George Williams. Again, can't speak highly even when I was at D2 watching him just win championships. And the person he is, you know, he's an upright person does everything, and how he interacts with people, not afraid to interact with everybody, no matter who you are. John McDonald, just for his unique way of doing things with, at that time when I was in college, it was distance field events, winning championships, and how many he's won over those years. I had Lance on there as well. What he did it with Arkansas, what he's doing with the women's, and Coach Holloway, what he's done in the 2000s, remarkable. Got a whole bunch of other people I can put down there on the other list, but I'm keeping that as my fourth. Now this is a tough one because no one's really ever gone into from all the things I've seen so far, no one's really recognized assistant coaches. So I want to give my homage to assistant coaches as well. So who are your top four? Not in order. Doesn't have to be a specific area. I know I've said before, but just four assistant coaches that are in your top four.
I'll start off with a young man that I had a chance to ask a lot of questions, pick his mouth, and I saw him grow. And I say young man because we're about the same age, and I'm young. I'm only 50. And this young man, I saw him start off, never really pushed to really be a head coach. I'm not sure if he interviewed for a whole lot, but long story short, Tim Hall. And I watched Tim from UNC Charlotte, Clemson, and now he's at Tennessee, and always had success with the sprinters, hurdlers. My next person will be Tim Vault, that's at Virginia Tech. Another person that I think that has established himself as a sprint coach and really has success, believes in what he does, shows character, and he had a lot of, to me he's underrated as well. Graham, don't realize it, but boy, look, so much respect for him on what he did on that level with nothing. Because I told you, Graham mentioned, we talked a lot. Sometimes during the season, almost every week, if we could. And it wasn't just about track. It was about, okay, coach, how are we going to raise this money? How are we going to do this? How are we going to? And Graham was the cool, even though he's stressed, you would never see it. But he produced so many athletes and has so much success. And I'm not just saying because he's here, but I asked him, I used to pick his mouth all the time. I even went up to Clemson one time. I said, look, you're going to show me how to do this. What do you do to your hurdlers that make, I just want to know some things that you just do. He just told me repetition, little things. And he's not afraid to say, well, come, let me show you what it is. He took time out of his schedule after practice or in between practice and showed me a few things. So, even though he was a head coach when I first met him, still one of the best assistant coaches. And then Tyrese, another underrated assistant coach. So much success with the jumps. And it's shocking to see that you haven't made it big yet. Just like what, Coach Pierce said. A lot of us just get overlooked because of intimidation. And you have the nick, man. I'll sit and watch you at meets, and you have the nick where your athletes buy into what you're doing, just like a Ross. They buy into it. And, some make it and some don't. Some fall to the wayside. And sometimes they're the better ones, but the ones that buy into what you do really makes you successful down the road because they bought into it, they execute, and they make it happen. And that's when you see success. So those are my four assistant coaches.
Thank you.
I think it's so subjective, and we could talk forever in terms of explaining why we like people like, I love Tim Hall, I love Tim Vaught. Those guys unquestionably are some of the better assistant coaches out there, in my view. This gentleman is not an assistant coach right now, but Vince Anderson is one of the guys that I respect a lot. Sprints, hurdles, whatever he touches, man, he understands the thing. Not necessarily from the same way like Ross would say he gets it. It's a different get it, but he does get it on a technical level for those events. And I think from a distance, he looked like he supported his head coach pretty well. The throws coach at UGA, what he's done at the collegiate level and also at the Olympic level, at all levels, I would put him up there. But the tough thing about assistant coaches and evaluating them, it's you evaluate a head coach based on what their team does. But the assistant coach, he or she could be a great coach for an event, but not necessarily a great assistant coach. Because so it's so subjective. But those are the names that I could think about. Both Tim's and Vince and Dan Babbitt.
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Murray. Take Ross people.
Well, I'm always thinking like a head coach and how would I build a staff with great people. Here's my top 4 people. One, I'm in agreement with Graham, is the Babbitt, the throws coach at Georgia. He gets it. He gets it done. He get it done. Me and him been on some national staffs together. He has truly gotten it done, and not in just one event area, but in multiple throwing event areas. The second person, because I think is underrated, is Kevin Brown in South Carolina. And I think sometimes because Kevin walks around like a madman
every day,
he gets a bad label. But me and Kevin was in high school together. So I know him. But Kevin Brown can coach. He can coach the sprints. He can coach the hurdles. He can coach the jumps. He can coach the pole vault. He can coach the multis. Kevin Brown is the type of guy you got to have on your staff. And he's a fearless recruiter. But Kevin Brown can coach a lot of stuff. So I think Kevin Brown, because he's been in South Carolina so long, he's not appreciated. And people don't really see all that he has done and can do. So I think Kevin Brown is one of the people. The other person is Tyree, and Tyree know how I feel about this because we talk all the time about certain positions and how certain things don't go a certain way. But Tyree has put people to the NCAA championships in several jumping events. And so once you can do that from a small program, that means you know what the hell you're doing. And it's proven. It's not just like a one-year fluke. You know, Tyree always has somebody pop out there. It might make it on their last jump, but they qualify for the big show. But Tyree, he'll get it done in the jumps. My fourth person is a person that I've known extremely long time, and I think he's one of the most underrated distance coaches in America, and that's Ernest Barrett. Because Ernest Barrett can coach anything from 400 meters to the 10,000. It cuts you out and fuss you out along the whole way doing it. But if you look at the body of work, you look at the results at every level and in those events, Ernest Barrett can get it done in those events. So you name the event, he will get it done. So that's how I see it. And those people can grind. It's not a black or white thing. It's not a Power 5 or HBCU thing. But I just to me, those are the people that are getting it done as assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Ross.
Yeah. So Frank and I actually had a few of the same people. But let me tell you, I don't think Tim Hall is underrated at all. I think everybody knows he's one of the best sprint coaches in the world. But he was definitely one of, when you think about sprint coaches, one of the first that I think of. So Tim Hall definitely. And Vought was on my list too. I actually like Vought. One thing I like about Vought, I've known him since he was at UNC Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
That discipline, that structure he has, I'm a watcher like most of you guys, man. We had meets, just watch it, right? And I like the way he handles his program and his sprinters and whatnot. And I think he might be a little underrated. I think he's a good sprint coach. My other one, I'm excluding my assistant coaches. My assistant coaches, I couldn't do what I do without them. Ron Garner is one, obviously, and Barrett, like you just mentioned, Mopi, and then Coach Vance, my jumps coach. but I'm excluding him for this
Right.
purpose. We talk about others. But my other one will be Chris Johnson, man, in Arkansas, right?
Yep.
You think
Chris,
about
man,
people,
is yeah. Chris, man, is and I don't know if he's underrated, right? Because people know that Chris can coach, man. So Chris, Tim, Nick Peterson, down at Florida, man, he's great. Once again, I don't know if he's underrated, but he's a great assistant. And then one of you guys just mentioned Tyree and whatnot. We lost conference a couple times because he jumped, man. Right? So, but for real though, like I said early, man, someone that can take an event, take an athlete, and make them better, and just continue to do that year after year, always has my respect. So, yes, Tyree, I do believe you're underrated, for sure, and whatnot. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Hey, Duane, is it interesting that both Tims were at UNC Charlotte, and
Yep.
you don't consider UNC Charlotte a track powerhouse?
that is interesting.
That's crazy, eh?
Mm-hmm. That is a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I hadn't
They
thought
were
about
both
that.
there.
Yeah.
And they were very good when they were there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they were.
I mean, they were right across the street from us, man. Johnson C. Smith, that was always our first outdoor meet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
A lot of good coaches out there, man. I know we left out a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a ton of good coaches. I mean, even Lennox here, one of you guys mentioned Lennox, when he got the job at Clemson, first off, being an alumnus, I was like, okay, now these hurlers they're gonna get on track and whatnot. So just watching what you do over there, man, that's great too.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, a lot of great coaches, man.
I'm gonna go Tim Hall, South Carolina State. What he's done everywhere he's gone for the sprints and hurdles. I love what he's doing. I had Chris Johnson down there for mine. I watch, I'm one of those people. I watch what people do, and he's known, but he's unknown by a lot of people, and doesn't get as much props as he should be. But I think he's one of the top coaches out there. I like James Thomas from Texas Tech. We've had our battles at NCs, and I've watched what he's done with the jump group area and working with the multis. He's a great person, a good friend of mine as well. Throws, I went a little out west a little bit. Brian Bluterick from Arizona State. He's done a great job with the throws program there. Just watching over the last couple of years, what he's done. I don't think we need to go. I think we kind of hit the underrated in a sense, but I'm going to add my other underrated person or 2 people on there. Keith Hurston from Florida State, even though he has good jumpers, but I don't think his name is known as much out there. He does a great job with the jumps program at Florida State. And since Ross, you don't want to give props, I'm gonna give props to Bill Dunn over at North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, I forgot about my man.
Yeah, so Coach Dunn, man, that quarter mile group, woo, man. Watching him, what he does, and how he interacts with everybody, and just all the staff that y'all have there, is how the interaction is there. It means things, but he is on my list for underrated as well. Well, I know I don't want to take up too much time, so we're gonna go to the end, and I want to just give some advice to young coaches looking to elevate themselves in the sport, and then we'll end on this.
I had 2 names for underrated. I think
great,
Lonnie
great.
Green is underrated. I don't think he gets the
Who was that?
Lonnie of Kentucky, what he did at Purdue, bringing that program to the fore.
Yes.
What he did as an assistant coach and now as a head coach at Kentucky. And Karen Dennis is a pretty good head coach that not too many people talk about too. So.
Well, anybody else underrated while we're on?
My 4, well, I'm gonna say 2. Mo P definitely. Even when I first started coaching, I heard about the Hamptons crew, and I never really got a chance to sit down and have a whole conversation with him. But every time we pass, he's one of the guys that will talk to you and say positive things to you, just like Coach Beene. Never knew me, never had major conversations, but I learned a lot. I watched him, Coach Pierce at a few track meets and watch how he organizes things. So again, the championships on the HBCU level are amazing, but a lot of those people just don't realize what you can really do and what you actually do.
Okay.
And of course, one of my good friends hasn't really had a lot of success, but I know what she does and I know how she does it with limited resources. Sweeney Thompson, very, very talented coach, and got a chance to get her own program. But again, it's always about situations and where you're located. And I'm gonna leave it at that. But that's my overrated.
Coach Beene, want to do your top 4 coaches?
Which way? Assistant, head.
Head, and then we go to assistant.
Man, it's. I'm gonna defer to that. What did I miss? I mean, because
we're done.
Some that come to mind. A lot of respect for his body of work. Definitely Coach Holloway. What he's done in the business. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, we got a legend right here in front of us. I mean, Ross, what you've been able to do. I mean, at an HBCU level and be nationally ranked. I mean, like I said, the people that I watch are people who's getting it done and getting it done well at various levels. And you got your legendary coaches from some of the other PWIs, but I have to give credit to my brothers, like Coach Holloway, Coach Lennox Graham. I tell you one person that's really underrated. He's a recruiting guru. He's a mad scientist when it comes down to training. I think people sleeping on Eric Jenkins. That's a sharp brother.
Yeah.
That's one of the guys that come to mind. It's just so many great coaches out there that I actually watch myself that I think is really good and underrated. But like I said, and even somebody might say those guys are not the top 4 guys. These are people that I see consistently getting it done. And then, I mean, you got Coach George Williams at the Division II level. And I mean, it's just, those are some of the top 4 that come to mind to me. And I know when it comes to stuff like this, I don't like giving names because I'm going to always leave somebody out and somebody might get in their feelings.
Yeah.
How about your assistant?
So, man, I mean, you're one of the best jump coaches I think that's out there. That's getting it done. I have to give credit to one of my former assistants, Charles Ryan. I mean, he's good at what he does. He knows hurdle. He knows sprint. He's real good. I think there's good assistants coaches that's out there. Let me think. Lennox is doing an awesome job. What he's doing, he's not there by mistake. He's doing an awesome job. Let me see who else. That's really out there that's getting it done. And I'm having a brain freeze because there's one other person that I see those are the 3 that come to mind, and I'll roll with those for right now.
Well, I did want to touch into this about underrated. I think that Ross, I think you're underrated, but yet you're not underrated at the same time. As a head coach, I think that what you've done with the program, where they stand, from where they started at to where they are now, and the direction you're going, I give you mad props. We talked a lot. I think it was your last year at Methodist, and we talked about some things. And then as we keep talking at the meets, because at MEAC, man, I'm just watching how the growth is going. Mo P, man. When I came in at South Carolina State, I saw you in Norfolk State up there, so I was like, man, I gotta be the one to take them out to the throne. And so it was kind of the same story what Ross had, but just watching the success and what you do with your athletes, see how your celebrations are at the end of the championship meets.
Let's not talk about that. I ain't forgot no P. I ain't forgot. You got, go ahead. Go ahead, Tyree. We ain't gonna talk about
Coach Beene, underrated, but yet I don't think that you don't get as much props as you can out there in the world. But shoot, all those championships, my God, man. Let me borrow some of them rings. Hyland, you know, what you do in the SIAC with Benedict, you know, you took down Morehouse, which was a powerhouse in the conference, in Albany State. So you did something I couldn't do when I was at Fort Valley. So I give you much props.
Man, how those scholarships set up at Benedict, man? You get some stuff over there, man.
Problem is I can't keep them.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough because I have a good situation, but a bad situation. We have a very good academic scholarship program. So most of my kids are good academically. So if I get a kid that got a 3.7, he getting full academic. I ain't got to give him $1. So I get a lot of kids in like that and lock them in and just, you know, maneuver my little 5 scholarships around and make it look like I got something. But the issue is I don't have a track. I don't have any paid assistants. And I don't have a travel budget. So when you get a good kid, they want to go somewhere competitive. Luckily, we are around South Carolina, so we get a lot of schools that come to run at USC, so we're right next to South Carolina. But the gear, the equipment, you know, that kind of stuff, and, you know, not having a track, have to travel to a track every morning, you lose them. And those kids, they want to go somewhere where, you know, their friends are talking about it. You know, you always hear about Coach Ross and their program. And I know a guy that went to A&T that transferred from another school, and he said he fell into heaven when he got to A&T. He said because he's never been around a program where everybody's happy. He left a program, the coach fussing at him, going off, and they had success, but they didn't win a whole lot. But when he got to A&T, the kids, he said everybody was happy. So that's the kind of situation I set up. But it's hard to keep them when you can't do the little things for them. You know, go to the bigger meets, go to the Texas relays or the Florida relays and stuff like that because of, you know, travel restraints. We raise a lot of money, but it's still not enough. You know,
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's end on this. Give your advice to young coaches looking to elevate themselves in the sport.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Mm.
You need to start first then.
What I would say is for those young people, master your craft. Don't be afraid to do the blunt work. You know, sometimes you don't have to go straight into a paid position. That'd be nice, but a lot of people start out as volunteers and then work their way up. So don't feel like you neglected from that aspect. Work your dues in, pay that path, and things will work out for you. Be confident in yourself and your abilities, and know what you know, and be able to develop relationships with your student athletes and your staff. And I think those things will progress you forward.
Right.
So,
Mine is very simple, and we all touched on it. Coach Ross mentioned, no matter what the resource is, if you're hungry enough, you can get it done. Okay? Coach Beene said this by himself also. Think about family, think about future. So wherever you decide to go, that's one thing you got to make a decision on. Is this something I wanted to build? Do I want this to be a part of my journey to be successful later on in life? And you got to love what you do, because there's no big money here unless you're Coach Ross. But there's no big money. You gotta love this. And if you don't love it, you're not gonna be successful. So you gotta grind no matter what. And that's it for me.
and I'll go next, and I'll actually echo that what Frank just said. You know, yeah, man. I mean, you gotta love it. I think we all love it. We don't do it for the money. Yeah, that's what I tell young coaches. Ask me, I tell them, hey, make sure you're in it for the right reasons. But also, what I would say is, and I've said this, we need to be aware of the legacies that we're creating as coaches,
Yes.
you know, and who we're touching.
Yes.
And we need to be aware of that. right? Like I said before, you never know what animal you're creating or what angel you're creating, right? And I mentioned that earlier when I said to Mo P, and Frank, you just mentioned it too. When I came into the conference, how Mo P helped me without knowing it, helped me to, be on the path that I'm on, right? So as coaches, man, I think we all need to do a better job. Here, I don't know what you're talking about, Tyree. I think we're still young, right? We talk about
Right.
But yeah, I think we've done a great job. But one thing I would love to see better with us as young coaches is us, unite a little better and a little bit more. The powers that be, that's how they keep us where we are, right?
Right.
They keep us divided, right? We all know what it is. We all know it's a competition, right? We compete on the track, right? But we all understand too that track is a small blip on the scale of life, man. I think as young coaches, we need to be better at helping each other, supporting each other, man, and then we'll all continue to, to come up.
All right.
I'll go next. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I think for young people now, I think you got to figure out where you want to coach or what type of coach you want to be. Because the quick fix is that, okay, you can get a job quick at some small schools, small historically black colleges, and you can become a head coach at a young age. Some of us were. I was a head coach at 29 years old. Or you can say, what's my real big ultimate goal? Ultimate goal is to get to the highest level. Then you got to understand that you got to extremely grind. And for about 10 years, you're going to be a job hopper. So you can't have a family and get locked in with that, because then you got to make decisions based on family. So you got to figure out if you want a quick fix, which can be very, very successful. Because at a young age, you'll be a head coach and you're making some money. Or if your ultimate goal is to get to the very, very, very top, then it's going to take a 10-year sacrifice. And you're going to be job hopping and traveling, sometimes making a little bit of money. But the sacrifice will be that you're not going to be able to have the family that you dream of while you're chasing this big dream, because you're going to have to job hop. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so just be prepared for either or. And if you're blessed to become a head coach at a young age, understand that you have to learn how to be a great leader extremely fast and follow that leadership trait and get better and better as a leader. Because that's going to be the difference of how long you can continue to stay to become a head coach at that, whatever the level is. So you got to figure out where you want to go and how fast you want to get there.
Graham, your advice to young coaches wanting to elevate themselves in the sport?
Move to Jamaica.
That'll work too, man. But I'd say to young coaches that they should study their craft. It is coaching, so you got to know stuff. You got to know about what you're interested in. You got to be passionate about it, and you have to be willing to spend a lot of time learning about it. Also, get yourself a good mentor, someone who you could look up to, not necessarily someone who you're going to ask to write programs or let me see your program. What are you doing? Because I really don't believe that works, because everybody does something for a different reason. The most important thing is to understand the whys, and that will come from being a student of a sport. But to get a good mentor to help you, maybe some of the relationship stuff, maybe someone who could just tell you, hey, you're trying to go too fast, slow down, whatever it is. Try to be the best assistant coach or GA that you can be. Not everybody will start at the head coach level. I was fortunate to be a volunteer head coach at high school, and then a full-time head coach at a Division II university. Most people will start as a GA or an assistant coach. Try not to rush it. Try to be that best GA that you can. Learn while in the moment and take it from there. Definitely don't be in a rush. It shouldn't be about the financial rewards. We know the money part is important, but if that becomes your priority, then you've missed the whole lot of coaching. It's about mentoring. It's about all these little kids who leave home for the first time, and they're trusting you with everything they have to help them to get through this portion of life. Because once they leave home and get to you, they're most times they're not going to live at home ever again. And so you got to fill in that gap and be responsible about it. So try not to focus on those financial rewards. And then the last thing I'd say to them is try to network. Part of it is getting a mentor, but also talk to people who are in the game, who already understand the game, who some of us are not as approachable. I've been told that I'm not approachable.
You're not.
But talk.
You know, we have our background. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're right, man. Hey, look, you're right. Look, this cat was up here in Winston-Salem, right? At the hospital. We both at the hospital at the same time, just coincidence, right? And I'm like, hey, what's up, Lennox? And he was literally about to walk right past me like he didn't see me.
That's him. I couldn't stand Lennox in the beginning. I couldn't stand him.
Y'all gonna get off my homeboy now. Y'all gonna get off him now.
I'm that person, man. But once you get to know me, you realize that I'm not really like that. I have that exterior that looks like I'm unapproachable, but and I'm very focused. I remember this guy, AJ, in Charlotte, who runs the Charlotte flights. He used to tell me, man, that when I'm working, he's not talking to me. He'll wait until I'm done working, and then he'll start talking. But then, like I said, not to stray from the point, it works to network. It works to get to know people. People could point you in the right direction, but don't surround yourself with a lot of yes men or yes women, because that gets you nowhere fast. You get an overinflated ego, and when you wake up, you realize you're down the wrong lane. That's it.
Well, thank you all for being a part of
Gonna
this.
get my two bit in, man.
Oh, my fault, my bad. I thought.
Don't make me pull up, man.
Go ahead.
Eat out now.
Lost track.
But before I say that, though, to each one of you guys, Maurice, Ross, Hyland, Lennox, Price, I'm honored to be here with you guys. When I say I've followed you guys' work, I got so much respect for each one of you guys on this panel. I wish you nothing but the best in your family, in your professional life, financial life, all of that, man. Many blessings. Guys, keep doing what you're doing. You got a fan, and I'm going to continue to support you, your university, and your cause. And one thing that I will say, and I don't need to piggyback off with anything the other guy said, but the one thing that young coaches, if I can say, be loyal. Be loyal.
Yeah.
Be loyal. Be trustworthy. Say what you mean what you say, and truly care about the kids, and everything else will work itself out. I think one of the biggest things now in that young coaches and even coaches that we know coming up, there's a bunch of disloyal people out there.
Oh, yeah.
If anything, be loyal, be honest, and be trustworthy. And that goes a long way in this business, or in you helping getting your name out there if you want to make a good transition. And that's it.
Well said.
Good.
Well said, Coach B.
You know, I think I would be remiss if I didn't say another underrated head coach would be Coach Donald Cooper.
Oh yeah, cool. Oh yeah,
The guru.
good and a great person.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you all for being a part of this panel. Life Thought Sports Training with T. Price. I want to thank you all. Hope you will look for the next episode, and some of you will be a part of that as well. So thank you all.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario?